At number 6, we have Percy, the small engine. Okay, now, the reason why I put Percy lower on this list is because I feel like Percy has gotten the same treatment as Henry and Toby, but the reason why he's higher up than those two is because he still has some good moments. Alright, so I think Percy is one of the more, interesting characters of the Steam team. Because as you all know, Percy is the happy-go-lucky and really joyful saddle tank engine who loves pulling the mail. However, in season, 5, I think Percy just was in a little bit of a bad mood that time. But we still love Percy. There are, a lot of iconic moments from Percy, as we know, he, Thomas Percy in the coal, trouble in the shed, he leashes steam at Henry, he crashes into a chocolate factory, you know. However, I feel like Percy has, definitely degraded ever since season, 5. I think he's also became a little more mature by that point. However, in season 6 through 7, they basically turned Percy into an idiot where he misunderstands things. I think that just became a running joke. And then, I think the CGI series just made him even worse, because they basically, again, they turned Percy into a child, but, he is, extremely childish in the CGI series. Basically, being scared of everything, he basically got the same treatment as Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog, if I'm being honest. But anyways, now, the reason why Percy is higher up here is because I think Percy had a great development in the Andrew Printer era. Well, yes, he still acts like a coward, but in Tale of the Brave, I think that's when he, like the title says, he learns to be brave with the help of his friend Gator. And while it was sad to see Gator leave to go back to his original home, it was still nice to see Percy, overcome his fears. Even in season 19. Although he did get worse in the Big World Big Adventures era when the episode Panicky Percy came out. Which I think is Percy's worst episode. Yeah. I know Percy's a younger engine, but he normally doesn't act this scared all the time. So yeah. Another thing is that I really don't like Keith Wickham's Percy voice because it sounds too degrading and it just doesn't really fit him at all. And that's why, okay, I do like William Hope's voice as Percy, but I actually think I like his newer voice in the ARC era from season 19 onwards. Now, I can't exactly remember who voices Percy in season 19 onwards, but I'm sure someone would probably tell me. But yeah, I just think Percy's a pretty cute character, and he has a nice design. So yeah, that's Percy. Again, not much else to add. Okay, so now at number 5 and 4. Okay, honestly, it's kind of no surprise I'm just going in, order from, numbers and stuff, but the only difference being Henry and Emily. I know some of you are probably, expecting Emily to be at the bottom because of her flanderization, but spoiler alert. Yeah. Alright, so at number 5 and 4, okay, I'm just gonna go, do a little reverse psychology. So, if I had to guess, who number 5 is, I'm gonna say Gordon. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just can't. I really love James, the Red Engine. As much as he was butchered in the Big World Big Adventures era, I still love him nonetheless. So we're gonna talk about Gordon. Now, Gordon seems to be a little, I'm sure there's, a lot of fans who actually really love Gordon. However, what I just recently discovered is that there are some people who actually do hate Gordon as a character. Cadigarus hates him, and a few other people do as well. But I think I know the reason why, so... Gordon in the original series was actually supposed to be, This type of cocky and arrogant engine who always boasts about pulling the express. But yeah. However, he does act like a big brother figure from, like, down the mine all the way up to, like, season 5. As you don't know, like, him and Thomas used to, like, banter with each other, with Gordon calling him little. And just these two, like, egging each other on. But after that, Thomas falls down a mine and Gordon comes to his rescue. And then they form a little, like, brotherly bond together where they form an alliance. Which I think is pretty cute. Like, also, like, Gordon has a lot of humbling moments where, like, he gets his comeuppance, but then learns a lesson by the end. Not to mention, he always calls Edward an old engine. However, like, in season 6, I think Gordon just, like, the whole him calling Edward old trope has gotten a little bit annoying to most people. I'll talk more about Edward later, but I know there's some, like, flaws people might have with Edward as well. But back to Gordon. So, yeah, Gordon used to be pompous and arrogant, but learns to be more humble. Now, like, I think Gordon stayed consistent throughout the hit era, still being, like, grumpy and pompous. However, if there's one thing people did complain about, is that Gordon just lost his brotherly figure type of character in season 6 onwards, because they basically just made him grumpy. And they basically just made him like Squidward from SpongeBob. Now, I don't really have a problem with Gordon in season 6 onwards. I still really love him nonetheless. Even if he lost his big brother figure type of character. But I mean, doesn't Gordon still get karma? Like, remember when Gordon takes a tumble? Like, when he makes fun of Salty and Salty says he's too big for his buffers, and Gordon just wants to show Salty that he's the best at pulling trucks, and then he has that pretty iconic crash. Yeah, I'm sure there's, like, a lot of other moments where Top Man basically tells him off, and then Gordon learns his lesson in the end. Yeah, I think the reason why people hate Gordon is because he learns the same lessons over and over again, where he runs his mouth, he gets into trouble, he gets put in his place, and then humbled by the end. And then the next episode, he just repeats the same things over and over again, like he doesn't change. Yeah. Like, I understand why most people hate Gordon, like, for that fact, but I still really love him. I'm sure, like, there's a million other people who love him as well. Now, I think Gordon, like, in the Nitrogen era, like, I think he still does act consistent with who he is, but many people, like, complain that Gordon just turned into a jerk in the Arc era, and just kept on being grumpy, like, nothing has changed about him. But, like, isn't the point of Gordon, like, isn't he supposed to be pompous and arrogant? Like, I'm sure there's still, like, moments where Gordon boasts about the Express, and he still has the iconic catchphrase, "Oh, the indignity." Yeah, I will admit that joke did get pretty old fast. What I will say, like, I'm not a fan of, like, there's this one episode where Gordon, like, laughs too much, and, like, he can't stop it, and he's so embarrassed by it, like, I don't think that's the type of character Gordon is. Gordon is never, like, usually, like, again, Gordon is supposed to be pompous and arrogant and boastful. Yes, there are moments where he does learn his lesson, but still. Yeah, if you hate Gordon or if you like Gordon, please tell me in the comments below. Like, what do you think of Gordon? Do you think he's a pretty good character? I personally do, along with a few other people. I can understand, like, why most people like Taylor Z hate him. But this is just my opinion. Yeah, I can't really put Gordon up higher on the list because he's whatever. Like, he's Gordon. He's pompous. He's arrogant. What else? Okay, I've rambled on about Gordon. I still really love him as a character. Even if there are some changes that just don't really, like, fit with his classic series character. Okay. Now, at number 4, yes, for those of you who don't know, I really love James the Red Engine. I love James. He's one of my favorite characters. I actually prefer him over Gordon, and it's kind of crazy, because, like, James and Gordon are both pompous and arrogant engines. However, there's a big difference between them. So, y'all know who James is. He's vain, he's boastful, he brags about his red paint, he loves being the center of attention, like... However, I think James has the same thing that Gordon does, where, like, he boasts about his paint, he gets his comeuppance, and then learns his lesson. However, I think James, like, isn't as, like, grumpy as Gordon. Like, he's still pretty happy and cheerful, even if he brags about his red paint. And that's why I like James more than Gordon, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it's kind of, like, hard not to like James. He's awesome. He's an iconic character, you know? And I think James also stayed consistent throughout the hit era, like, basically in the entire series. Always bragging about his shiny paintwork, always putting himself over other engines. But then he learns that no job is more important than helping an engine. Now, I will say James does have some annoying moments in, like, the hit era, like, where he wants to, like, in, like, Keeping Up with James, I think that's the biggest example. And also, James goes too far. Like, I don't really have a problem with James, like, putting himself over other engines, but, like, I feel like that can cause problems for him. Like, in James Gets a New Coat, where he gets covered in coal dust, all because he brags about his shiny paintwork. And yes, I understand he got karma in the classic series as well, when he got stung by a bee in one episode and he crashed into 2 tar tankers, but I feel like that's a little different compared to, like, the James he became in the CGI series. Now, I know that a lot of people, like, aren't really the biggest fan of James in the CGI era, because, like, he just acts too petty over, like, not wanting to pull freight cars, but can you really blame him? Like, James has always preferred coaches over cars in the classic series. I understand that part of James's development is that he learns, like, how to pull trucks up the hill, and how to, like, gain their respect, and not to bump the coaches very hard. Like, I feel like James has, like, learned to be less rough with the coaches in A Proud Day for James. Like, I know some people might complain and say that James's arc is a rehash of Thomas's arc in episodes 1 through 7. And yeah, I can kind of see the similarities, because, like, Thomas, like, and James both pull trucks, and then they learn how to pull coaches. And they both, like, improved as Thomas gets his own branch line and James gets his own new coat of paint and learns to pull the express properly. But unfortunately, Gordon just had to, like, force James to go on strike with him and just regress his express development. Yeah, that's probably, like, one of the reasons why I prefer James over Gordon. Because I partially think it's Gordon's fault that the engines, like, got shut up in the sheds for, like, a few days. Just so that they could have, like, Percy the small engine. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Percy, but still, I think it's kind of an inconvenience for, like, the 3 engines to go on strike. Because that just causes problems. Especially for James, who has already had a great development. Now, that really isn't too big of a problem, because, like, James still acts consistent with how he was in the entire series. However, like, I feel like James is at his worst when he's in the Big World, Big Adventures era, because, let's be honest, he just became way too selfish. Like, I think Apology Impossible is James's worst episode, and I think I can see why a lot of people hate it, and I definitely agree. That episode sucks. Like, especially after Philip rescues James. Like, what happened to that? Like, why be rude to an engine who just saved your life? That just doesn't make any sense, and it just hurts. I think what's even more annoying is that he blocks everyone's path. And I think he's the reason why Edward got kicked out of Tidmouth Sheds. Because let's be honest, if he had just waited to get his brakes fixed, he would not have crashed into Tidmouth Sheds. And, like, Edward would not have moved out and into Wellsworth. Like, seriously. I know this might be a bit too harsh, but why didn't they kick James out instead? Because, like, he's the one who started all of this, and he's the reason why Edward and Henry got replaced. I'm sorry, that's just a little bit of a rant I have to go on. Do you see why I don't like Big World, Big Adventures, and do you see why I'm not a fan of every episode of Season 21? Yeah, I think the fastest red engine on Soda and a shed fur would have to be my 2 least favorite episodes. While yes, I do love the runaway scene with James, I just feel like it's kind of stupid for him not to wait for his brakes to get fixed. Like Sir Topham Hatt said, it would have been easier to fix his brakes when he had a small problem before it turned into an even bigger one. Yeah. But I'm not gonna lie, I think Rob Brackstraw does a pretty good job James' voice. Sorry if I got tongue twisted again. Anyways, sorry, it's kind of hard to talk when I'm thirsty. Thankfully, summer's almost over, but I'm not looking forward to winter. Alright, anyways, back to James. So, yeah. I put James higher on the list because, like, he's not as, like, he isn't, like, Gordon, where he's just grumpy all the time. James still acts pretty happy, even if he's boasting about his shiny paintwork, like I said. Now, I understand, like, most people might not be a fan of James because he boasts a lot, but at least he isn't as grumpy as Gordon. I'll give him that. So yeah, if you like James, please comment below. But if you're not a fan of him, I respect your decisions and opinions. Although I'm sure like a lot of people will say that James is their favorite character, and I can definitely see why.